There we go. Um, I love your spirit.
It's all day long.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exciting.
Why
Um,
not? I mean,
so tell me a little bit about how you came across my page and the story you wanted to tell. I don't really do the interviewing. I just have
yep.
conversations, but it's just a quicker way to surpass like all the like, hi, sometimes it's just two spirits just meeting and collective wisdom.
Vibing.
Yeah. Vibing, collective wisdom comes out of our trauma, the things we've been through. So I like to just get to like the nitty-gritty, like what happened to you? No.
Absolutely. No, you can say it just like that too. What happened was a lot. I listened to your introduction and I see how you two have overcome some traumas as well. Like, look at you. And I look at you and you're gorgeous and you don't look like you've been through anything either. So that holds like that invisible illness type thing that people really go through. That adds when you have a trauma and people look at you and they're like, I don't see, there's no way.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you don't want to go around now announcing all of your traumas, but I ended up doing that anyways. The teacher in me just couldn't help myself, that I just couldn't believe that all of this happened in succession. So I found you by listening to various podcasts on the Apple. I went in,
Yeah.
and that's because I'm represented by a TV guest in California, a motivational speaker healing traumas. So I have been doing podcasts already to get the word out, and it's varied topic to topic. It's been sometimes it was about the traumatic brain injury because I was struck by a drunk driver and I ended up with traumatic brain injury. Some other things gone wrong that I had to see pretty much 14 different types of specialists at homeopaths, and I went to the neurofeedback. I had lost speech, writing, couldn't talk, couldn't remember what I was saying within the next 30 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. I had to use my cell phone as a memory to try and keep myself in check. And, I know I could tell that you're a spiritual person too, which all of this led me. I have more traumas, but it leads you into a spiritual journey. You have no choice
Yeah.
but to fall back and be like, why?
Yeah.
Why did this happen? And you even mentioned in your introduction about doing that soul searching, finding yourself, doing that inner shadow work, that inner child work, healing those inner childhood wounds. That's what I'm trying to spit out here.
Yeah.
Gosh, it took me a minute, but I'll get there. See, so like the brain injury left me with some things, but like instead of crying about it now, I just laugh about it and I keep pushing. So that's a definite message that I've been trying to put out to everybody is, so you're left with some stuff. And what are you going to make of this? How are you going to keep going?
Yeah.
So I had that going. And then it was 4 years out after the accident. I'm almost on 10 years now.
Okay.
But 4 years after that accident, my parents started dying at the same time.
Oh.
So I had to be smart enough and with it enough to go back to teaching, still see the doctors, drive. Sometimes I drove 5 hours a day to get up to a hospital to make life or death, decisions for my parents.
Yeah.
My siblings were always up there. They lived up there with them. So I will skip to the forefront. It didn't end well. We're talking hospital visits, nursing homes, home visits. And then the pandemic came. And it's, hi, we need you to teach your kindergartners online.
Wow.
What?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a lot. It just keep, and that's the thing I find too, like things just once you figure these things out, like life just keeps lifing, like nothing stops. Like I'm like, oh, I have ADHD, that's what that was. Oh, and then and then this throws at you, then this death throws at, then you have to grieve, then you have to learn how to grieve properly, and all these things just. And I'm like, okay, it's actually a gift when those traumas come up, because you realize, like coming out of it, I have CPTSD, I have I was diagnosed with adult ADHD, but those things are like not real things because of the stuff we went through, and that's how we had to survive through that. and it's just a survival mechanism. But to break that and like see like, okay, this is what I have, how can I use it as a skill now, how can I be the resource? That's wild that you went through wow. Sorry, and I keep I write things down as I go, so
Yeah.
I see and I'm like, that is a lot just from
Yeah, we're constantly living in survival mode, and there's no room to just live.
still.
And so,
Yes.
yeah, we said yes at the
Yeah.
same time. Yeah, because you get it.
You did.
Yeah, you get it. Like
Loved
there's
it.
no minute to just. And it's funny because when I was not allowed to teach for a year and a half, I was deemed mentally disabled. So my school district was amazing, helping me meander through all of this. They still are, because I have like a 504 for teaching in New York State. That's if a student gets hurt, or if they can't write for a month because they broke their arm, we make all sorts of kind of accommodations. Well, they exist for teachers too. So I have
They're
one.
treating you guys right, because that was a concern of mine of when my son had to go virtual, and I'm like, they already, like weren't getting paid enough. Like I would always do those Amazon wish lists for all my
Yeah.
my son's teachers. I'm like, let me get whatever I can whenever I can, because that has to be hard. And they're with my son all day. Like that in itself, like when you get still, I'm like, that gives me time to do things that, their day is taken up by that. Like, so I do appreciate you as just a human being, but just I applaud you for teaching our students and making that generation, especially what you've been through. So I know that like you're able to spot things in kids that need help in areas that other people might not understand what that is when they're.
I'm very tuned in to their emotional side. The SEL is what we call it now. Social emotional learning.
Yeah, I because I applied at my son's school to do meditations because I got all these certifications, but they're like, we already have this program, and they kind of explained what it is, and I was like, oh no, it's okay. And then I went and did it for the Salvation Army, just like a healing circle, and like they get to pick different people to come in, and so that was fun. But yeah, that's how I learned with that.
I love it.
Yeah.
We need meditation every day. I mean, and that was a thing that I had to hook in when I was doing the spiritual journey. So like that was when I started going to the neurofeedback. I didn't know what I was going to be left with. And I had a psychologist, and he said, after 4 years, you'll know what you're left with. I was like, no, this is not acceptable. Not acceptable. And I'm a reading specialist.
Yeah.
So I've already taught pre-K through grade 12, all of them. So I work with very high special needs students. So I already knew, right, after the accident, it took 3 months to show up, but I knew the indicators. So I was hot on it. I did the neurofeedback, I did the cranial sacral therapy, I did the osteopathy where they hold your head and like for an hour, they just move the fluid around. It's great. I did everything I could, even a homeopath, to save my brain. So I'm teaching during the pandemic, which is great because, by the way, that's how I started all the speaking. Naturally, I have the gift of gab, you could tell, and I do this for a living.
Yeah.
But teaching parents online, like 8 of them at a time, it's like, all of a sudden it was like, here's the Keli show. I mean, I was opening up with songs and jokes, and like, I really felt like I had to be an entertainer. And I thought to myself, sweet Jesus, good thing you were a performance artist before you started teaching. Like
all of it was for a reason. Yeah, it led you literally for that day, prepared you. You already have the tools. That's what I tell people. In healing, you already have the tools. You just have to be still long enough to see what they are. So that's awesome.
Being still is hard. It's really hard. That silence when everybody's life went on and I had to sit still in that pain and I'm lost. I know you know what I'm saying is it's really hard to sit in there.
Scary.
Like it's deafening. I don't even know how to describe it any other way than the silence is deafening. I didn't know what to do with myself at all. Not at all. And you started one day at a time. You just, I got online and I started one course, like, oh, let me learn how to love myself again. And let me read this book.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the first books I read, it just came up. His name is Eben something. He's a neurosurgeon who got, I don't know if it was meningitis, and like went into a coma. And when he came back out, he said, there is heaven. There is another side. And I was like,
yeah.
So I
like I knew what that was. Yeah. I knew it was spiritual. Yeah.
Right. I went to church.
Spiritual gifts. Yeah.
Yep. And my son was 7 and we never baptized him. I was baptized. I had my first communion, all that jazz. And I got him baptized. I brought my ex-husband back. Well, he wasn't my ex-husband at the time, but I had him baptized. And then I started doing Reiki because I wanted the healing energy. And I was like, what else am I going to do with my time? But honestly, I was like, let me develop this. And I just wasn't accepting no for an answer. So I am now a Reiki master, and I actually assist teaching Reiki in college. Can you imagine that one? I'm 46 years old. They're now giving college credits for this. You couldn't even talk about this a long time ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I also studied,
I'm just like in awe of you. I'm proud of you. This is a lot of overcoming, girl. I'm just writing it.
Yes.
Yeah, you go, girl. Yes, you're deserving.
Yes.
You're so deserving. You're deserving. I love that you're saying yes. That's what I always like preach about, like not preach, but I love to share, just accept what's coming and say the yeses. Like no longer say no. When you say yeses, you could set boundaries along the way and adjust them as you go, but say yes to everything new, anything you were deprived of, anything new, anything you didn't try when you were younger, like just do it. And boom, just it aligns so well with just everything. And more confirmation, like the more I hear your stories, just more confirmation. That's another thing. It's inspirational. Like you become an inspiration with overcoming these things and seeing where you're at now. Like I am so, that's what I'm saying, like two humans, just different backgrounds. I am so proud of you. Like this is
give you a hug.
I know. You're just so awesome. I'm sorry. Keep going.
No, don't be sorry. I love it.
It's gonna help.
So yeah, but just to piggyback off what you were saying, is stepping outside of your comfort zone is so hard. So I mean, when I walked back into that church, I was scared. I didn't know anybody. And I was like, and I do this for a living. And I keep saying that because no matter how brave you are, you're still scared. Yeah. It doesn't matter. And people think that, oh, well, you could do it because you already could talk to everybody. No, I was still scared to walk through that church door. I was still scared when I took Reiki. Like, I'm full of magic. Yeah, okay. You know, like you doubt yourself. Now I'm teaching it with my Reiki sensei in college. Stop it. Everybody's like, we knew this was coming.
Yes.
So, yeah. And when all of this was going, I actually have a spiritual gift that I have hidden for all my life because my mom was like, you don't talk about that. Because if you talk about that, people are going to think you're crazy.
That's what I'm saying. Like the restrictions they have on God and spirituality. And that's why I always say spirituality before religion. It's a good book. That is in like one of the colleges as African studies. Like get that book, whoever is listening to this, because
I will.
Yes, there's so many restrictions, especially in just culture. They're like, if you light a candle and turn off the lights just to pray, they're like, oh no, you're calling on other things. No, I'm calling on what my heart feels it needs to call on, what my spirit is called, God. Yes. And so it gives you a spiritual experience because he left us with that advocate. Our spirit is communicating with him. And when we align spirit and flesh and they stop fighting each other, you can hear God a little more clearly as a healer. And that's what scares people, is that power.
Yeah. So fear of the unknown.
Yes. Yes.
Fear of the unknown, stepping out of that comfort zone. You know, I started small, and, you know, as my mom would always say, you know, put your big girl pants on. You know, I hold on to them a lot in my mind. They both passed. They passed in 2020 during the pandemic. I couldn't even hang out with them. I brought my mother home for home hospice, and because I already knew she was dying. That was the other reason why I started to become a Reiki master, because I was helping her transition into death without being afraid. Oh, so beautiful. She and I, with our gifts, were learning it together. And so I met a whole network of friends who were able to help me transition her and not be afraid of death. And she was not afraid towards the end. She got a little wonky towards the very last hours because it was home hospice at my sister's home. But for the most part, you know, she was ready. She trusted me. She was like, okay, listen, you've done all of this. I'm watching you, baby girl. There's got to be a reason. There's no way, you know, God did this. Well, she's on her last, you know, it's not a pretty scene. If anybody's done home hospice, it's traumatizing, especially when it's your parent. They just kind of throw everything at you and they're like, go at it. Oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
And 36 hours before she passed, my dad had a fatal accident. He fell and hit his head and passed away 36 hours before her. So I was an instant orphan in 36 hours. So that call was shocking.
Like, yeah, he was just testing you after. That is deep. Wow.
So after that, of course, no one would be emotionally straight. And I got a divorce. That wasn't working.
You're like,
and then I'm like,
yeah, you give no, excuse my language, but you give no fucks after. Just
pretty much.
You need to go. You weren't fitting. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah, basically. Yeah. There was no hiding. There was no holding back. I was like, okay, you ripped my structure right down to the ground. I'm standing on the ground barefoot and I have no choice. I'm not accepting anything other than, the highest and best for myself. Forget this. And, that included me and my son and, my sister and brother. And, I have a niece and nephew. We're a very small family. So it was even easier than that to just go.
I just need these. Yeah. You create your inner circle. That's what you did. Wow.
Sold the house and then I moved into an apartment. And then I was like, well, yeah, I'm going to write this book because I'm going to tell everybody else about that.
Yeah.
Not to be afraid. And what PTSD looks like and what traumatic brain injury looks like. And hey, by the way, don't be afraid. Go be a Reiki master. Go ahead. See those mediums. You got to find the right ones. You have to know they're real. I'm lucky. I have an entire team of friends that we just talk all day long, all week long. I help them. They help me.
Yeah.
But I found that network, through work and through, doing the studies. So yeah, I'm all spiritually based. I even have, a couple of the teachers at work, I've been there for 21 years.
Yeah.
So I hid this all the way up till after the accident. And it's only been the last 3 years where I stepped out and was like, okay, just so you know, I have gifts. And they're like, that makes sense. We get it now. We get you now. We see it. We always wondered, I would get those cases like, hey, we can't understand this child. Can you meet with them? And I'm like, no problem. Send them over.
I love that. And was that the spiritual gift that your mom was like, don't share? Sorry, I wanted to go back to that. That was just the Reiki. Yeah. How
just being able to hear things, see energy, premonitions, know things. You weren't supposed to talk about that because then you're, I have to laugh when we say witch and I'm using my hands like that. One of my best friends is a white witch because I have a best friend that's a shaman. I have a best friend that's a white witch. I have many medium best friends. But it's so funny. Everybody works in light. So the whole point of it is if you're a light worker. So I actually call myself an earth angel. So we all refer to ourselves as different things. But we're all aiming towards the same goal, is everyone live their highest and best life for themselves and just get out of fear. Oh, I lived in a chronic state of fear all the way up to this accident. People tell me all the time, did you want that accident? Like, if you could go back, would you not have that accident? And I, as much as I want to say, I would not want to have, who wants to have an accident like that?
Yeah.
The pain was off the charts. I was on Percocet, Flexeril, Xanax, Naproxen. I mean, you name it. And I'm a small person. I was on all of that at the same time for about 2 years. It was brutal. And my son was 7 at the time. So he lost part of his childhood.
Yeah. Because that's what I was just saying. That I hear them out there. I'm like, just years pass so fast. Like, we're looking at my 3-year-old and we're just like, he was just in our arms. Like, this is because we have the 9-year-old. So we're like, we see it. And so now we're a little bit more still in things. We're able to. And so we're just seeing year by year, like, that does go fast. Like, seeing their age gap and just seeing how my 9-year-old's about to be 10 and just like, that mom guilt comes in. You have to even heal that as you go with like self-compassion and self-forgiveness. Like, kids are so resilient. And
I love that word. I say that on all my podcasts.
Yes. Like, they are so resilient in seeing our hurt, feeling our hurt, and then still the next day giving us an opportunity to rewire that and change that for the day. Like, they wake up just happy, like what's today? And so we have that option. Are we gonna have the same day? Like that goes in my head just with just journaling in the morning. Am I gonna have the same day as yesterday? What happened yesterday that was good? What can I bring? What good can I move forward with? And that's hard when you're a person like me that just always had that self-sabotaging spirit, of just the trauma, the being comfortable in being stagnant in the hurt that we went through. And we can choose to stay there or move forward. And you are just moving forward, girl.
Oh, you. I like that. I find
Thank
people
you.
just like me.
I know.
But like I want people to get there like us,
Yes.
but you seeing us, that took years of work. So
Yes.
the hard part is, the fear of the unknown, they don't want to step outside the comfort zone. And then it takes years.
It's like where to start. Sometimes it's like where to start. And then they know it's there. Because for me, I knew I would talk about it so much, my mother wound, just telling the stories I went through. And that was one of the, like before the Healing Homegirls, because that was during the spiritual journey of my own. It was Dear Mama, Hi Daddy. Because I'm like, I know just I was like, let me use this as talk therapy to honor them in a way that I know they did the best they could have with the tools they knew, but I wanted to share the tools they knew and how I can find better ones through their pain. Like I went to my grandmother's, like how did you raise them? What did they go through? How did you punish them? And back then a whooping was just like, that was normal to put them in place. And we're in this, we're in this phase of just, go, you better go sit down. What's in the house stays in the house. And so we didn't believe in like therapy, or we just, even with being spiritual, like being Christian, I would say, the restrictions they had on just like the way we pray, when I started speaking in tongues, when I started praise dancing, when I started feeling other things than just pray, give it to God and leave it. I'm like, we have to really feel these things before we give it to him. He wants us to feel all these emotions. And what really helped is I got a feelings wheel, and I started journaling like exactly what I was feeling. Like, I'm agitated because of this. And it would be like small things, like my husband didn't take out the trash that day, and I would just flip out. And I was like, this is pretty toxic. And I would write it down, like, thinking it was him, like he's toxic, he's not taking out the trash. When I'm like, no, why am I feeling this way about him not taking? What is this like, why am I making it such a big deal that it ruins our week? And I went back to how I was treated when I didn't take out the trash as a young kid. And my mom didn't have that partner to her communication skills was just, I'm gonna get angry for you to do. And so that left us with trauma. Fear. It just built fear in us. And so living off of that fear, it's like I couldn't get anything done. It makes you stagnant. So if you're feeling fear and that urgency to, like, some people that have been on this podcast have said it felt like I was being pulled by my hair, or it was just like I was being pushed. So if that push, that pull, that urgency of like, I need to go this way instead of this way comes up, just follow it. It's scary. It's so scary, that unknown, like you said, but just following that unknown. Stop following the familial. Stop following
I always talk about people pleasing, and I talk about fear of judgment. And I talk about listening to your intuition, which is what you're describing. Your gut is telling you, hey, it's time. And I'm guilty of it. I sit here and I'm a motivational speaker. So of course I'm going to plow it all out there and tell people do this, that. And I have 40 minutes to do so. It's like when I'm teaching, I tell the kids, you're about to get 30 minutes of stuff just thrown at you, because the other 6 hours of the day, you can soak it up and reapply it where you need to. But I have 7 different groups coming in. And, while the classroom teacher has 19 kids, I've got 40 something, maybe 50 something rolling through every day. And it's deliver it hard and fast, get out, go apply it. So
that's why I'm like, always bring a journal and a pen to every session. And I give that advice to like my clients for the meditations, but because I'm like, after the meditation, like you're still, so write, journal. And so on my podcast, every person, I bring a pen and journal, because all of you, I learned so much from. I'm like, oh, my
feeling.
Yeah,
I know. And
like,
doing the podcast, Yes, it is an honor. And I love every single person I meet, especially you're so cute and bubbly. It's just been an honor to talk to everybody about this because, yeah, you're trying to help everybody else, but you're also healing yourself. Before, when I look back, I have a website. When I go back and I look at the first podcast, I'm like, oh my goodness. Oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
Girl, you were rough. You were.
Yeah.
It's like we can laugh at ourselves now, but, development takes time and practice. That fear, here it is again, really gets you. And you're like,
yeah.
In the first podcast I listened to it, I'm like, oh.
Mine too. I go back. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's where I was at. Because I even said,
I love that.
Like, like I said that, I wrote that. Oh, that's spelled wrong. Like I'm just like everything. I'm just like, what is wrong with me? But the Dear Mama Hi Daddy podcast, I started it as I said it was going to be my talk therapy because I don't know where to turn to, but talk to self. But I was like, but I'm tired of like doing it alone. So maybe if I put this out, something's just telling me to put this out. And as I did that, more people were like emailing me, and I started, praying differently, like my head to the floor and speaking in tongues and moving, like letting myself really just let my spirit lead. And I brought my journal to my prayer sessions and I just journaled, like eyes closed and everything. I'm going to have a bunch of homegirls, the Healing Homegirls. Like I literally wrote that whole sentence and I'm like, oh, okay. So I switched, I had to start over, and I even like switched like into God's like, my spirit was like, don't look at the numbers, just release, speak, and just do it. Everything else will come.
It's one foot at a time, like just right in front of the other, and baby steps. And oh yeah, no, I was so excited to meet you and to like, and it's funny when you talk about the errors. I've seen it before. I did a journal one time and I responded, and I did a journal on imposter syndrome, and I turned it in, and here I'm thinking someone was going to, take a fine look and edit it. That's not what happened. And it was like the tiniest error. I think maybe one or two, but I'm like, I'm a reading specialist. I can't believe that's
yeah. And I had Grammarly on. Why? Why did they get that?
Right. Nobody else cared.
$20 a year, and that's what they gave me.
Right. Nobody else cared. I cared. Nobody else cared. Yeah. I even had a librarian call me, and she was like, "So I saw your journal," and I'm like, "I know." She's like, "I caught that error." She's like, "But I bet you nobody else cares."
Yeah, nobody.
Like, I needed to hear those words because I cared. Even when I published this, I have an editor. I paid people, but there's still 10 errors in there. Oh. So I could have been really hot about it. I wasn't. They're minor, like they're pronoun errors, but it's kind of like, hey, that's my story. Yeah. However, when I did the audiobook and I was reading, I was able to fix them. And I thought, this is so spiritual again, because here it comes again. And you still had a chance to fix them and come back.
I love that.
So there's always a way to fix it. And so
like now I go back and I'm like, I could just edit it now. Like it's still there. It still can edit it. I still can go back, but I kind of like keeping them there because it shows me now what to do. Like just, okay, write it in my notes, put it out there. It's just about to keep. How are you? So that's another thing I wanted to ask you with your socials. How do you keep so consistent without that burnout? Do you get burnout? How does rest look like because I know we have to take so many energies in with being a healer, and how do you like re-energize? Sorry, breathe. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was trying not to cut over you because I know you wanted that.
I was like looking off trying to find the words.
That was weird. That was really weird.
I almost my ADHD almost offered you water. I was like, you're not here.
It's so weird. I haven't done that the whole time. I don't know what's getting me. All right, so you might want to spit that out again because I don't remember. No, you were like, how are you? And like in terms of healing, and I couldn't hear the rest because I'm like, don't cough on her. Don't cough on her.
No, you're okay. How do you re-energize your spirit? How do you for your burnout? Because I know with helping people and healing people, that's just an exchange of energy, because we put so much in. I took a break recently because my father-in-law passed away, and I thank you in July. And so I was taking a break, like, from just socials and stuff. But then my mother-in-law's Alzheimer's went rapid. Like, it just went from, like, we just noticed the repetition to, like, she doesn't know he's gone. And like you're saying, it's kind of like when you were hit by the drunk driver, like that like you're just like, and then but we're the caregivers, me and my husband and his siblings, like we all, well, right now, like, she went to my sister-in-law's because that's where she feels safe, and like in that room, and just being like, she just, that's where we're just like, wherever she's comfortable, she can go home to home if she wants, as long as she's not, we just don't want her in a home, because they love their mommy. They're like, that's my mommy. So they're
love that.
really, yeah, I'm like, I hope I have kids like them, because they're just like, she is like, this is a blessing that is through her legacy. Like, she's able to just kind of hang out the rest of her life and chill. But how do you re-energize that burnout, if you get burnout?
Well, we all get burned
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially since I'm, teaching all day long.
Mhm.
And, I work in a 1,000 person building. It's a very large elementary building. So by the time you mix and mingle with staff, I'm all of grade 2. So there's 4 classes, and there's 2 grade 5s that roll in. And
Yeah.
I mean, it keeps on going. So, in the morning is when I find everybody has their easy time to reset. And I find the morning is easy. So I give the extra time to wake up but not get out of bed. I love that. I love to be lazy right before I get up. And that's also where you can get that meditative state, that clean slate, where I get a lot of my angel messages, a lot. Like, my eyes open, but I'm just staring at the wall or just staring out the window. I'll get a lot of my angel messages. But I'll do a meditation. I'll put on music on just right on my cell phone, right out. I'm still in bed. I'll do a Reiki session on myself. It takes 15 minutes just to start your morning off like that. There are other times where, it's not so graceful. And I love to share this with people, because there's no perfection in healing. It is not pretty at times. And that's okay if it's not pretty. It's okay if you break down, but you just don't want to stay in that zone. So I try to run. I run every other day. And some days you're like, I don't want to do this. Yeah. Some days I will just binge watch TV, because what I'm looking at takes no effort on my end. It's just pure entertainment, and there's nothing to think about. There's nothing to do. Just
watch. Yeah.
Just look and listen and be entertained. I've done that. I've read a book. I love to walk in nature. So sometimes I'll drive someplace. I love going to restaurants by myself. And that is something that I could not do before the accident. I was uncomfortable in my own skin, where if I was by myself, people would be like, what's wrong with her?
Yeah.
I remember the first time I wasn't wearing a wedding ring. I was in line for COVID to get the shots. And I was hiding my hand inside my coat pocket, because I didn't want everyone else to know that I was a failure. What is that? There's no failure in that, but I felt that way. And I felt like everybody was looking at me like that. So I was like, oh, you're 46 and you're not married. What's wrong with you? Nothing's wrong with you. Even if you never got married, or if you got divorced, it's all in here. And I had to change that. So when my father slipped and passed away before my mother, how did I handle that? Not pretty. I drove home. I walked through the front door. I went to the kitchen. I grabbed a bottle of wine. I walked out the back steps into the hot tub, fully clothed, sat in there and drank it.
Oh, I love that. No, that sounds like a good time, though. Like, sometimes
they're soaking wet, staring at a tree. I had a favorite tree, and I was just looking at the tree, drinking right out of the bottle. It's a big one too. I won't lie. And my son come out, and he's like, Mom. He's only like 9. Mom, did Grandma pass away? That was what he said. Grandma died. And I said, Grandpa died. And his face just dropped, because he was like, oh my God, like, she's alone. Like, you saw on my son's face just dropped. He's like, I'm going to bring you some water. I'm going to bring you some water. I'm going to leave you alone, Mom.
Yeah.
And then he didn't even though he went upstairs, and he never, he didn't like to hang out in the hot tub with me all the time. I mean, I'm Mom, come on. He's like 9, 10.
Yeah.
He went upstairs, he put his little shorts on, and he brought the water out and hung out with me. Just sat in the tub and stared at me while I cried. Because he was just like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to be present. Yeah. So it's no surprise that he's 16 and he wants to be a psychologist.
I love it. Yeah. But those are core memory. Like, we guide our children, and sometimes they have to see those emotions to know that real life happens, and I'm shielding you from that. I'm feeling it so you don't have to. And sometimes it's just good to watch, like it is.
As long as you don't stay in that state. And I was in that state for a little bit, because come on, I mean, I was taking knock after knock. Yeah. It was just like, what's next? Yeah. Possibly.
That's honestly the best you could have done. You didn't give up. You just found ways. Those were your tools right now. Those were the tools you knew at that moment. Hey, a mind will calm me, and the heat from the water. Like, there's so many reasons why your spirit, like, just do this. I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah, just want you to stay. A lot. Yeah. Just do something. And so it's like, I never criticize someone. When I went out to California to see one of my psychic medium besties out there, and I went in this hotel that's haunted, stayed there by myself. I was like, I am so proud of myself. Look at me go. And I'm sitting at the bar, and I made friends with everybody there. Like, just that's stepping out of your zone. I flew all the way across the country and in a hotel that I knew would interact with me because I have gifts. And it's actually, I remember this clear as day. The waiter was talking to a man on the side down, and the man's describing why he has shaded glasses on, and he's got a therapy dog by his feet. Yeah. And his name was Buddy. And my mom used to call me Bulldog when she was alive. You're my bulldog. You're always protecting me. So here's this therapy dog that's a bulldog, highly unusual. And the bulldog had surgery, had a little vest on that said Buddy, who's hysterical. And he had knee surgery. So that cracked me up even more, because my mother had knee surgery. Now I'm dying. Yeah. And the guy is explaining to the waiter what happened to him and why he has these special glasses on and everything. And I turned and I said, you were in an auto accident. You have a brain injury. And his face just dropped. He was like, who are you? And I said, I'm just a little earth angel. I said, I was in an auto accident also. So he unloaded everything to me. I sat there for like an hour and listened. His wife came in and was like, who are you talking to? And like getting upset. I said, no. I'm a TBI person. And he's just finally like, oh my God, somebody who actually gets what I'm saying.
And so he needed that at that moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we bonded. And it was just so interesting. So yeah. There was a man sitting on the left. I'm trying to get to him. And he watched me have this whole conversation. And he waited for everybody to go. And he goes, can I talk to you now? I said, oh, okay. So I'm friendly. I'll talk to anybody. And he started to talk to me, and he unloaded everything. And it was very dark for himself. And I just sat there and I listened. And he said, I don't have any idea why I told you all of that. I'm very convinced that you're an angel. And I said, I am. And I took his cell phone number and I gave him a nickname because he wouldn't even let me have his real name. And I just said, so-and-so from LA. And it's stored in my phone that way. And randomly, I'll be told to send a message, to keep him on the light side. Yeah. So I'll be heading to work, or I'll be at home, and I'll get a flash of LA, and then I'll send a message. And every time the message back has been, how do you know? How do you know these things? I had the worst night ever. And hearing from an angel on the other side meant the world to me. Like one little text after like months. Yeah. So it is that simple to like reach out to each other and just keep.
Yep. And that's the prophetic gift that, there's this book, it's actually called Prophetic Gifts. That's probably where I'm getting this. That's what that reminds me of. It's like when you get that flash or that vision and you move on it, you speak on it. It's your, like you said, your intuition to follow. And that's how you spread the light, like God's light, like follow what your spirit is saying and those visions and that's what I tell people, like with the Bible. When I got a study Bible, that was different for me because I really viewed it as like people having visions and hearing things and writing a journal. and keeping a journal. So they're just different journals of them seeing that light and following that light. That's all that is. And so, like I said, like with just in the culture of church, that scares people, that fear of actually it being actual magic. And that's one of the scary things, like when you say about magic, what and I've actually never told anyone this, because I was like, again, that fear came up, or that a shame, I had got the Artist Way journals to help like facilitate my journaling, like to be more consistent. And it's like you read this and then you journal, and you have to, like, she has you sign a contract in the beginning of it. And it's like, I'm like, this is scary, but I'm gonna do it, because it's like 3 months of work. And it says in there, like, part of the contract, you have to write at least 3 pages a day. Like, that's the minimum. If you go more, yeah, it's a lot. And she's even said, like, even if it's, yeah, so like, even if you feel like it's a lot, it becomes like it's not. And after a while, it didn't.
Second nature after a while, yeah.
Yeah. And so I wrote, like, after one of my prayer sessions, that it's okay for me to do white magic. And I'm like, why did I write? And I even questioned, like, it was just me journaling. It wasn't a thought put into it. It was just like, I just wrote it. And she says in there, don't go back to read them. And I did. And a few days ago, because I had just I stopped it towards I got to the end, because of just everything that was happening with my father-in-law. And I went back, and the page I went back to before you had scheduled was, it's okay to do white magic. And that scares me. That's scary. Right. It said, stay away from everything at all. Yeah. Now it's just, I feel like, again, like more confirmation of meeting you and hearing those things, and just the inspiration of seeing how happy you are and seeing your flow in things, and how that happens even with the death of both of your parents. Like, I was getting scared because of the things that were happening with my biological parents, that of the dear mama, hi daddy, and the stuff I was saying. And I'm no contact with my mom. But that's because I tell people, if you feel physically unsafe, set that boundary, because physically safe, like, he can't hit me. So that's there. But in doing that, there was so many messages coming to me that someone close to me was going to either by grandmother, like my maternal. So I don't know if it's my grandma, because that's been happening too, a lot on her side of, she's like the eldest sibling living now. And so she's like, if she's like, no one really supports you, but telling me no one supports you but like my aunt or something. But it was scary because the maternal kept coming up. I was like, is it her or is it my mom? And how do you prepare to grieve someone you had to grieve while they're alive? Because I know grieving when they're gone is different. And everyone says that, that's your mom, talk to her. But spiritually, I just cannot. Like, and I've healed all the like anger. I've allowed myself to be angry with her. And I'm sorry, I'm just putting you to work here.
Listen, I love it. Bring it. This is what I do.
That's where I'm at in life. And that's where I started into where I'm at, of meeting and all these inspirational women, and getting on the other side of that, because the parents hold so much of that. I don't know the word for it.
I know what you're talking about, the grieving while they're still alive.
Yeah.
And I can explain it as, when my dad was getting sick, mom was sick and she was already in a nursing home. But he had a diabetic collapse many, many, many times. One time he fell, he broke his ankle. One time he broke his toe. One time he broke his shoulder. One time he broke all of many ribs and hit his head. The way that he died was hitting his head. Was the fatal blow. But the time when he broke his ribs and hit his head, he had a traumatic brain injury. Mm-hmm. Traumatic brain injury in a person that's in their upper 70s, who has this up and down and diabetic, your system isn't right. It looks very much like Alzheimer's. I thought that was it. And I, with my gift and with all my spiritual people, would say, I'm looking right at my father and it's not him. And it would scare me. I'm looking right in his eyes, and my dad and I were best friends. And I swore for the last year and a half, that was not him. I would look him right in the eyes and I'd be right in front of him. There was no sparkle there. I said, can people be alive and their souls aren't there? I had to really do some soul searching. And I'm asking all of my gifted people, like, is this possible? Is it possible that you're in your body? You're out of your body? Are you making transitions? What is going on? Because I'm looking at them. and he is not the same person. He's not there. And that was really hard because he was angry and we would get in fights and it never ended well. There were times where I drove an hour up and then, 5 minutes with him, I'd be like, I'm out, I can't do this. And then I avoided going there and I wasn't hanging out with him. And sometimes he wouldn't answer the phone and I would drive up there for an hour and I would come in and he's sitting in a pitch black room. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm just watching TV. There's no TV on. It was just so weird, like just crazy things going on. And I was grieving the loss of him. I'm looking right at him. Your body's here, but you're not here. So we went through that for 2 years. And I was convinced that it was just like that. So I understand and I shrug my shoulders. The only thing that I have to say about that is it's all timing. Comes down to divine timing. You'll know when it's time to forgive or, sometimes there's things that people can't forgive.
Yeah. But him passing, that didn't make it any easier while grieving him while he was alive. It didn't make him passing in real time any easier.
Like that question, do you want to know they're going to die or would you rather them just die? I had it both ways. Doesn't matter. The feeling was the same. The process was the same. The recovery was the same. So whether you know or you don't know, it, like my mother, I was preparing, my dad was a shock. It hit just as hard on both ends at the same time. So who gets to even speak about that? When I did not know, when I did know. And I can tell you the delivery on both ends was just, it was exactly the same. The recovery process is a recovery process.
All the tools,
Yeah. And I'm glad that I was there to hold my mom's hand to the end. She brought me in and I helped her walk out. It wasn't, and it was not pretty. It wasn't. But yeah, so I get that. It's just got to be on your own timing.
I love that. Thank you. My mother-in-law, with her having her Alzheimer's, she takes a picture of her and my father-in-law and she'll say, they're gone. I don't know where they went, but they're gone. And you have to think about it they are. And that is, a lot of people don't, I joined a support group and that's what I wanted to share is when people go through things, it's good to have the community and however you need to find that. Now Facebook just has so many groups of different things, or Instagram, the courses that everyone does, try them out, for whoever listens to this and is going through something with someone that with memory loss or the traumatic brain injuries. There's so many support groups on Facebook that I've found that have helped my spiritual journey. Even with locking my hair, this is new. It's my spirit just said, you wouldn't have time. You're not going to have time to have your beauty standards the way they used to be. I'm a beautician, so that for me is hard. I have cosmetology license. I've managed supercuts and for 12 years. So I'm like, what? So this is even just embracing frizz. It's different for me. Wearing skin tints, when I worked at MAC, I did full face. So all of this is new and it's just me being obedient and being still. And again, this was just all more confirmation. So it was an honor that you found me. And I know that it's just more confirmation for me. My book that I started the other day, it's actually right here on my Being Called.
Oh, I love that. Oh, how beautiful.
Secular and sacred perspectives. And I think everyone should. I took a course with Penn for positive psychology on the Coursera app. When they have it on the internet, I just use both because that is really convenient to get the certs that way. But Martin Seligman, he talks a lot about these spiritual experiences and how we can give ourselves these names, like yours is Earth Angel. I haven't really gotten, I just know that healers are healers, and so I'm just healing. I'm just a healer. I don't know, but I love that. I just getting out there and seeing on Instagram, they're like, do the research people who have the gifts you have, and hearing yours is like, that's beautiful name. That's a fitting name for you.
Oh, that's so
I love
cute.
that. That was just more confirmation again of everything I was just journaling, like, get your names together, get this together, and
It'll
you're
come.
moving in that. Yeah.
It'll come. I wasn't even, I always thought of myself as like an earth angel because I was studying angels and I was like, wow, it sounds a lot like me. And it happened when I went to Vegas and I sat down next to someone, was talking to them, and she turned, she's still one of my best friends now. And she looked at me, she goes, yeah, I see wings on you. And she had no idea who I was at all. No idea that, I had studied angels or even thought of myself that way. And she's like, I see wings on you. And now all of them are like, yeah, well, this is Angel. Sometimes they'll just call me Angel. I call myself Angel Teacher because my job is to get out there and teach more. Just, yeah, okay, we talked about the traumas, but we're also talking about spirituality, like stepping really outside. And, magic, they always say, believe, if you focus hard and you write, you make the dream boards, right? You make the dream boards and you manifest.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of white magic? I mean, it depends on what you're calling white magic. Apples and oranges or what we want to call it.
Manifestation scares. Manifestation, I'm just gonna, it scares so many people. And I'm like, it's just actionable prayers.
It's the fear of the unknown. It circles back to that. If they don't understand it or they don't have their feet dipping in it, it's scary. And so they, conjure it up in their head to be something that it's not. A lot of the shows that you watch on TV that are like super scary and, demonic. I don't know about that, just like I tell my kid, because he also has gifts. And I could barely speak to my mom about my gifts. She didn't want to talk about it, but I'm very open with my son. And so we talk very openly about it. And he's like, well, it's scary. I said, hey, every time we go out of the house, it's scary. There's bad people everywhere. So whether it's on the spiritual side or in our vision, like there's still scary people. Mm-hmm. And I feel more powerful having my parents on the other side. They send signs all the time. I hear their voice out. Like, it's crazy. The tune in I have for them. They're more present being gone.
That's what I tell people. I'm like, when you grieve and you get to the point of knowing that spirit is they can do a lot more than being in their physical bodies. Just start praying, just start seeing. And then even people that are like, oh, this stuff is scary, but then they'll see a red robin and be like, hi, Mom. And I'm like, that's it. Like,
that's a piece of it, right?
Yeah, I can see things for what they are.
Leaving pennies, finding feathers, the smell of perfume. I'm constantly looking for numbers. I follow angel numbers very, very clearly.
That's and the way ask you see, I felt you did. I keep seeing one everywhere. And I'm like, what is this? Because I know people like study that. I've never, I never had someone that has. I've been curious because I'm like, I looked it up, but then there's so many different meanings that it's giving me. So I'm like, what does that mean?
Well, there's a book. Oh, first of all the time when I don't have my book around, it's called Angel Numbers. Kyle Gray has one. Doreen Virtue has one. So, I mean, you can go on Amazon and find angel number meanings. But every time it happens, I'll get cut off in front of a truck, will cut me off, and it's got a giant 59 on it, but it says Kane is able. You can't dismiss that. So if I'm driving, I speak to text to a friend. I'm like, give me 59. And we're close friends. And she's like, all right, I'm on it. And she'll Google it and it'll have, the meaning. And I'm telling you, so the way the spirit works basically is if they know you're paying attention, that's what they're going to use. If you're bird watching and birds always came to your parents, they're going to bring those birds. If it's numbers, you're focused in on that. They're like, all right, here we go. We can send messages now. We're going to show her 459, 10 different ways. And then you're gonna be like, all right, come on now, that's enough. So I have 338 has come to me over and over and over. I was teaching in a class and that's 338. I moved here and my post office box is 338. And I'm like, what is going on? I mean, 338 all over the place. Finally, I said, okay, well, stop being stupid because you do this for a living. So go get the book. And I looked it up and it was two things. 338 is a frequency, which made total sense to me, to keep yourself at the highest frequency possible. That means do the inner healing work, like get back in there. And it's actually, and it also has to do with your past life having parts to do with your current life. And I was like, oh, well, that was deep.
Yeah.
That was deep.
Yeah.
I was like, what'd I do? Come
What
here
do
to
you mean?
clear,
Yeah. Which path?
clear the path? Anybody who owed any debt before I come to this planet, and I cleared it. I went through divorce, death, or like you name it. And those aren't even the actual trauma. There's more traumas, but I'm just not speaking about them. Like I was hit with several traumas before this. And I was just like, what is my purpose here? And this is my purpose. Like I've literally been through every trauma, including one of them that you were talking about. Yeah, I've experienced all of them. And it's just, okay, well, we're both doing what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. And I posted that the other day. To go forward, you have to go backward. And that nothing's scarier than that. Everyone kind of ignores or says they're healed from it. You can be healed from it, but I say healing's ever long, and you're going to be healing all your life once you start that journey. There's going to be things that come up that you feel differently about now because of the tools you know, or maybe triggering now because you've ignored it for so long. So those are the things that everyone has to pay attention to. What is the experience like? Because I've actually never done Reiki. How do you go into that? What is the process of doing that? I've actually never asked that. Like I've never done it.
It's funny. I've been asked that before too. And I, in that podcast, I did a terrible way of describing it.
But it was practice.
It was. And now that I've, been in the college and assistant teaching recently, because we just finished Reiki 2 now, I'm just kind of retraining with all of what I've done. But yeah, so basically it's set intentional energy. So you don't have to be super gifted in order to do it. You just have to learn to really relax. It's a meditative state that we're talking about, right? And you learn symbols. It's like the first time you go, I think you have a certain percentage ability to do the full Reiki. And then you go the next time and it's like you got 90% usage. And okay, so basically, if I'm going to do Reiki, I literally set my intention. So the first thing I do, because, this is my prayer, I say, God, Jesus, Mother Mary, archangels, angels, ascended masters, ancestors, spirit guides, mom and dad. I call them in. I still do this. I was born and raised with it. That's my thing. That doesn't mean it's everybody else's.
Yeah,
and I will actually, And then I actually draw the chakra on my chest. I'll draw the say, hey, key, say, hey, key, say, hey, key. There's symbols that you say. And the hanchas zeishas, and I touch myself just like that because it has like 15 different steps. I'm not trying. I picture it in my head and I put it there. You don't have to do it. It's all about intention, right? And so I will lay there with the meditation playing. I do the Dorian Virtue chakra clearing, or you could do any kind of meditation and you just hold your hands in the chakra places and you move up and then you're done. Then it's cleared for the day. It takes 15 minutes. And ta-da, I can send it to you. I can put it on my water. Like just take the cup and draw the symbols on it. And it's like praying. It really is like intentional energy prayer. And it doesn't matter what religion you believe in. By the way, I call myself an omniist because I believe in all religions. Not all of them, all parts of all of them, just tiny parts of all religions. Because it's true to the person, right? Your religion makes you who you are. So that brings out that your religion is actually your soul is the other person in there. So you're praying to your soul. So yeah, so you just do that every morning, or they say 3 times a day. No, that's not. I can't do that 3 times a day. I cannot do that 3 times a day.
Yeah, especially with the stuff you already have to do in life, that would be a lot. And then a lot comes with that because you get tested in those gifts. So what do those tests look like? It's like, I don't want to, that one meme or that whatever, that reel of like, I need to call God to get off his strongest warriors list for this year. It's a lot when you do that. Oh, there's a pin. Yeah.
When I'm doing Reiki on someone else, and I have them on the table and I'm doing it for someone else, I'm calling everybody in. That's not like I walk around with magic inside me. I'm calling in outside energy sources. So I'll even say, hey, ancestors of the person, and I'll name the person on the table. You can come and put your hands on me, or you can put your hands on the person. Let's heal them together. And all of a sudden, like, this wave of energy will come, and I'm like, this for a second. Person's thinking, I've had this, my friends, they're like, whoa, Kelly, this is a lot more than you described. Like, we heard you, but we didn't hear you. Now we're on the table, and this is crazy. And I can see colors. And if you don't have color, I'll go to that end. And my friends are like, how do you know to go right to the spot? I said, it's not me. It's outside source saying, hey, you just have the vision. So go over there and hold this spot and we'll fix it for you. That's basically what Reiki is. I'm just a conduit to let it come through. But that's working for God and anybody else that someone believes in.
Yeah, that's what I tell everyone. I'm like, find your own individual relationship, whatever that looks like. There is that took a while for me to rewire my judgment, like to even sit here like here. I'm like, yeah, like that does make sense.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think my son, did he get him? I'm sorry. I think my
no worries.
1 second.
I'm so no worries. Don't be sorry. Babies are important.
Yes. Oh. Okay. I got a few more minutes. He wants him, mama, and daddy got him. I told him, I'm like, Dad, I'll be right.
So cute.
Yeah. He picks and chooses though, because he's really a daddy's boy, so I don't know why he's fussing. Dad, he never wants me.
You're busy. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as I get on the phone too, they're like,
correct.
You guys were
then you'll come over there and it'll be like, I don't need you.
Yeah. Once I get off the phone, yep, exactly. But I just wanted to say that that's what I tell everyone, is to find their individual relationship with God, whatever that looks like. Because they are spiritual gifts. Like when I was introduced to having the prophetic gift, as you have those visions, you can call on things, and it's just about, like you said, like intentions on what you call on. And that's what scared, like when I try to go into my not inner circle, but just my like family of origin, I would say. And most of them were like scared of the meditation. I'm like, I told them, whatever you see it's a guided meditation, whatever you see as I say it, that's what you're supposed to see. That's what you're supposed to hear. But when you fear things like that, I feel like it's not that you won't go to the next step, but you're going to miss a certain blessing that you've been asking for. Everybody asks for clarity, or they say, give it to God, give it to God. When the answer comes to you in the form of the healers, us, when it comes, are you going to listen? And that's what I want.
Right.
I want people to understand, like, you have to listen to.
Oh, you made my legs tingle on that one. That is so on point.
Yeah, they do that. It's like, you asked for it. You want clarity. Why'd my son go? Why'd my sister go? Why'd my daughter go? Why? But when it comes to you in a form of spirituality, it's fear, that fear that people were taught.
Wait for it arrives. What are you going to do with it? Yeah. Yeah.
So
that applies to my love life too. Let's just throw that out there. Dating is not fun this day and age. It certainly is not.
I was just talking to someone about that. I'm like, I'm glad that I'm married. I'm glad that I found out that I was toxic in this marriage, because he's been so patient with me and in my healing journey, and adjusting like himself for me to figure out. Like, he's like, my parents been married 50 years. I've never saw my mom throw a chair because my dad said he was unhappy with something. It was me. Yeah, you're unhappy.
My house
throw a chair. Yeah, it was just wild. I'm like, so I'm toxic. Let me admit that. Let me have accountability. Taking accountability is hard. In that, because I felt like we had to go backwards and date in a way where I went through a certain time in my healing where I told him, like, I need to be separated. Not separated in the household, or separated like I don't love you, but separated in like, I don't want to be touched. I don't want to talk to with our old, or when we have a discord. Like, I want silence. I want to journal about it. I want to wait a couple of days to not be reactive with you and really learn my anger. And when we went through that process, I can only say, like, when people are dating, like, yeah, find out that process, like your own seasons, not you specifically, but people who are
Yes.
listening, like, find out your seasons when you're angry, how you handle things when you're angry, how you handle things when you're frustrated, how you handle things when you go through your whole, let me get it, your whole feelings wheel. Everyone needs a feelings wheel.
Love it.
Learn all the emotions. When you're happy, where it's stemming from, when you're angry, what that aggressive comes from. I had that masculinity trait that was patterned in my generation of defense. Like, I was so defensive when I had to take correction where that made me angry, and I wouldn't have had that language if I didn't get the feelings well. So having that language with my husband's like, I'm angry because I feel this, I'm frustrated about this, and I want to be aggressive, but I don't want to be aggressive. He's just having that soft girl era will definitely, you'll start reeling them in.
Yeah, and that's coming out of that survivor mode, right? I haven't really been presented an opportunity, still being independent and raising my son on my own, to let that guard down. And I find myself living in survivor mode a little more than I want to.
Yeah. And I've heard someone call that, once you're out of survival mode, because it seems like you've been out of that for a while and you know the tools to get out of that. It seems like you're in that era of that superwoman syndrome. That's a word that I heard. Yeah. It's like, I can do it on my own, and I know I can do it, and I've done it for so long, and I do it well, and we're on and that's that, it's you, that's super. And then you healing people all throughout the day. That's when
that saves me.
Yeah.
Helping others saves me.
Yeah.
Instead of just turning in on myself, I'm like, nope, I turn around and, if I'm sad, I'll call 10 different people and be like, I love you today.
Yeah.
They're like, whatever I can do to throw out more love, because it helps me not sit in that zone. So I turn around, and when I keep, it's one of my besties, my white witch friend, she says, laugh, make yourself laugh. Even if you're mad, like do it until it actually changes. And sometimes, I'll do her a little exercise, and then I'll laugh at myself because it sounds really stupid, but then I'm laughing because I'm like, okay, it worked. So, I mean, there's just tricks of the trade. Even when I would get super, super stressed, I would run, if I had no other way to, and I can't stop, I would run my hands under ice cold water. It's just like a shock, a reminder of like, ooh, reset. So there's just tricks all day long that you do to just keep going.
The laughing at yourself is hilarious, because I laugh at myself all the time. I'm like, girl, you crazy. And I'm like, what am I talking about?
I talk to myself. Yeah. I don't even care.
Yeah, me too. That's one thing in healing that I've learned is I love being alone now. I used to not like being lonely, but now
Correct.
You're really not, because you have your spirit to connect to and align with. And there's so many things that it's teaching us from the outer experience that it had. Its perspective was totally different than what we were having in that moment.
And we weren't raised to think really that way. Now that I've mastered the art of being alone, I'm like, all right, Jesus. I've done it for 3 years. So where's my partner?
Yeah.
Oh. Any day now. That's nice.
Waiting. But I hope that you receive that. And like we were saying, like, when it comes, are we gonna listen? So be open to the yeses. You're at this point, like, there is gonna be,
I'm listening. Where's it at?
Like, as soon as I see him.
Yeah. Well, I'm so excited that I got to talk with you. We're gonna be besties. We're gonna be friends.
I know, that's what I was gonna say. Keep in contact. After this, I'm definitely going to message you my cell phone number. Just text me back.
Yes.
I love that, because I do eventually win my goals, and I like to share my goals because I know how to protect them, and I think that this was such an alignment to everything that's happening. I eventually want to get to a point where I can do retreats, and that would be lovely to use your services. You know what I mean? Like, this is a blessing to to everything that moving forward in goals. Everyone that I've met, they all have their gifts, they all have their specialties, they all have their careers, they all I can't wait for every woman that I've met on here to meet each other, because I'm like, we're just all
that would be like energy. Yeah,
I know. I'm like, we're gonna have to do a retreat for that. Like, that's gonna be
the world on fire.
Can't wait.
Totally excited.
Would you like to share your website just for the end of your website, your socials, and just what you're specialize in? Couldn't get that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So my website is actually very easy. It's kelikanehealing.com. It's spelled KELIKANE, the word healing.com. I don't think I need to spell that for anybody else. And when you go on there, you can see the book that I've written, Angel in the Mirror, Healing Traumatic Brain Injury and PTSD through Western medicine and spirituality, which is what we were talking about. And it does show my page on there from TV Guestpert as a motivational speaker. The name for my Instagram is actually Angel Teacher, but it's spelled ANGEL_TCHR. But I know that if you go on Google and type in Keli Kane, everything pops up. My Twitter pops up, TikToks, you know, and
I'll
Instagram
also
has
have it. Yeah, and I'll also have it in the show description and all your links, and they can go there and click and follow and schedule with you. And I pray just more blessings in your life. You're a beautiful soul.
Oh, same to you.
Meeting you today.
I'm so excited. I'll smile all day thinking of you. Angel hugs to you.
I'm gonna text you I'm gonna message you right now.
You send me that and I'm gonna store you and we're gonna be in touch.
Okay, awesome. We'll talk
all right,
soon.
now I'm gonna go take my Down syndrome nephew out to a birthday lunch. I'm so excited.
Have fun.
I will. All right, bye.
Okay, bye.